Good day to you. Today we begin our second part on right learning and recovering childhood. As I explained to you, this will run through youth, family, parenting. Today we want to concentrate on digital life and children. So I have coined this term digital health of a child. That would be today's topic. I want to get on to good cartoons and bad cartoons, how much children should be exposed, how soon. Firstly, I have to explain to you that children learn languages best in the first year of life. This may surprise you, but languages have basic building units called phonemes, the most important sounds that make a language intelligent for the child. They first hear language. Now, they must hear language from a personalized language form. So, when mother speaks, father speaks, siblings, grandparents, limited number of people speaking to the child in personal relationships with inflection, tone, that's how the child's language units are built in the child's brain. And then of course, soon as possible, you have to get the child to write what the child can write when that age comes. Usually that would be a second year or a little later, just trying to write. So it is important to first get the spoken language which the child hears with clarity. Now imagine a mother, because of necessity, she has to do her household work. She puts a child, prop the child up even from 6 months or so in front of the television, and she goes to do her work. Now within an hour, that child is going to listen to all kinds of voices speaking out different topics, and the child's language tracks get completely garbled. Child does not gather phonemes, the building units of the language. So all authorities clearly say this: don't put the child before the television in the first 2 years of life. You may say, doctor, can't we do that for half an hour? Let me tell you, even that half an hour is injurious as far as language formation goes. So do your best to keep your child in the first 2 years of life with minimal exposure to TV. That child will speak better, and when the child comes to writing languages, how much the child has been grappling with solid objects and shapes matter much. So when the child is immediately able to grasp, the child should have building blocks, identifiable shapes. So this habit of giving a child iPad or tablet or a smartphone, and the child does this flip movement, I want to tell you, this makes a child very foolish. This is not brilliance. Sometimes parents tell others, you know, my child is able to do doodle, my child is able to see how brilliant, she is flipping through photographs or doing. This is not a brilliant movement. The child must touch solid objects. At this point, I might even say, when a child is breastfeeding, the grasping the child does is very important for the child's brain development. Now, as you can see on the slide, in the brain, both the motor cortex and the sensory cortex lie side by side. The motor cortex in the frontal lobe and the sensory cortex in the parietal lobe, and there's a deep sulcus there. Now, in both these parts, the child's face and hands take 40% of all the neuronal representation, both motor and sensory, which means most amount of brain development in that region occurs by the child handling and receiving sensory input, doing work with his fingers, doing work with his mouth. So suckling is an excellent brain developing intellectual activity for the child in the first few months of life. Feeding from the mother's breast develops the brain better because of the particular contours involved when the child is grasping and the child is suckling. And then when the child can handle other things, you must give the child definite shapes, the child begins to run through the triangle. Now, child doesn't know triangle, square or sphere, child doesn't know, but his fingers are knowing. Fingers are gathering knowledge. Now, you will understand this. And such spatial arrangements that the fingers are touching, which in medicine is called proprioception or spatial arrangements, helps the child in language formation and handwriting, language writing, when time comes. So, child's brain is already ready, already in place, the tracks are already in place to recognize the contours of letters. I think you understand that. So, this is so important. In the first year of life, child hears only necessary language sounds, not the garbled versions of thrills and stories that come out of the television at such a rapid pace. So, that is television and language formation. I am not even touching on the violence and what other things the television can do to a child. This is simply about language formation. Then let me get on to cartoons. What are good cartoons? As far as first 5 years go, good cartoons are cartoons that the child does not see. Now, that is a hyperbole, meaning to drive the point home, I made a bit of an exaggeration. But the fact is this: if your child is already into cartoons, try to limit it to 30 minutes. 2, make it every other day, because anything done daily, you know, is habit forming. Don't allow the child to get into a modus of demanding the cartoon when the time comes or when the time is not appropriate also. So, every other day. Thirdly, be very careful what cartoons you allow the child. There are spooky cartoons, there are ghost cartoons that injure the child's spirit besides the child's learning process. And children will wake up in fear, refuse to go to sleep, they have a hard time falling asleep. I will be doing this, the war zones in a child's life, the modern child's life, sleep. His child will be fighting mental images and memories that are frightening her, that are coming up. That is why so many children find sleep is difficult. They wake up in the night without having that full rest of sleep. Careful what cartoons they are showing the child. Then don't show the same cartoon that develops brand loyalty. Fifthly, don't add other material. Now for instance, if it's whatever the cartoon hero is, don't add wristlets, slippers, water bottles, stickers. Other material of the same cartoon develops brand loyalty in a child too soon. You know, children are very loyal, but children must be loyal only to parents. When you add these things, their loyalty becomes distorted and they demand that. You know, we work with the probate department. They told us the most number of telephone calls now come to them on their SOS call service from children who are between 10 years and 12 years old, demanding and destroying stuff in the home, demanding their favorite cartoon, buy them stuff, add another cartoon channel. Those days, their emergency calls were mostly on young fellows getting into heroin. These days, the emergency calls are on young children demanding cartoon stuff and fighting and dashing things on the ground and getting violent at home. What a sad thing, isn't it? So, who brought the television home? Not the child. Who is keeping the television alive in the home? Not the child. So, you need to take care about what cartoons you show the children. This is not the end of cartoon. Now, you know, cartoons and digital games make children violent because most of the digital games have violence. The acoustic rhythm violate the wiring of the acoustic cortex. So, because sounds are so jarring, cartoons don't have normal sounds. They have ee, ooh, ee, big sounds that alarm the child. And that is how their auditory cortex gets wired. Then the color of cartoon is also violent. What do I mean by that? In nature, you have blue for sky, green for grass, and most of it, little bit of brown for the trunk. Nature's colors are very soothing. That's how God made the colors. Rarely bit of bright red, purple. Now, in cartoons, what comes at the child is black, red, magenta, purple, orange, luminous orange. That's the violence of color. Then what happens is the child's visual areas overwire too much, and the child's logical areas in the brain have no time for wiring, because all the child's input is visual, auditory, visual, auditory. Now, 1/7 of the children are visual, auditory. That's how God designed it. Once I will be doing this in greater detail in some of the next programs, but at this stage, let me tell you, 1/7 are naturally that way. That's fine. But what has happened now is, because of the digital abuse and digital overstimulation, too many children have become fantasizing, imaginative, into seeing things that are absurd, weird, because cartoons are weird and absurd. So the effect of cartoons is very different from seeing a normal film. You understand that, isn't it? So you have to limit your child's cartoon life. So how do we help? In our Empathic Learning Center, we ask, we sit with the parents and take a case history, and then the parent and the child goes to the Empathic Learning Center. And this child who refuses to do anything in one place, because child has become too kinesthetic, child can't sit in one place, inattentive, hyperactive, impulsive. You have heard this 3 triad. How do we change it? Relearning, remanaging, retraining. Every day we advise parents to say this to yourself, so you'll be encouraged that a child who is into inattention gets scolded at school and you are angry with the school. We make a bridge, we make a rapprochement. They can be healed. They will be healed. We have outstanding case reports, true to life studies where this has happened. Children who could not sit still in the classroom now getting excellent grades. It is possible. So don't be disheartened. Don't fight with school and teachers, parents. Do what you can do, and for that we have help for you. So in our Empathic Learning Center, every Friday 6:30, after we see the parents, children immediately go off to the Empathic Learning Center. Why is it called empathic learning? Because it's learning, child-friendly learning. Learning through the medium child is now comfortable, and then getting child retrained to learn the classroom stuff. Isn't that what you want? So we have these pieces available. We display a video. This comes from Daniel in the lion's den. You know, these are great. Hebrews were visual people, so many Bible stories, when you read, you visualize what happened. So children must read. Then in their visualizing and imagining, the brain develops. When the children is given cartoons and movies just running before them, they are not imagining, it's passive learning. They are just absorbing the pictures that are coming at them. But if you get a child to read, or you read the story to the child is listening and child is imagining. Daniel in the lion's den, it was night time and there were lions and they were going, "Roar." And then God shut the mouth of lions, and King Darius comes and says, "Daniel, are you all right?" Then David felling Goliath, great story, any culture, any language, any kind of people. And the children imagine the child, of course David was 17 years old, and this child hero felling Goliath. Every child has his hero complex in his heart. You introduce a good hero who obeyed the parents, who looked after the father's sheep. So what are we doing? 10 minutes video, and the child gets to arts and crafts prepared. Children draw, children paint. Parents are surprised that for 90 minutes their son, their daughter stood in one place, sat in one place, and with other children drew that 10-minute stuff. Then they see the video again, and what they see, they draw for 10 minutes. You see, they love to see videos. So we show them for 10 minutes. That is empathy, empathic learning therapy. We show the video for 10 minutes, then they draw the video, and they